Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we are going to implement a Souls-like block system that will allow the player to block enemy attacks. So let's get started. So what we're going to do is first, let's go to Blueprints, Components, and let's open up the Combat component. Okay, and let's create a new boolean, call this one B is blocking. Okay, and let's create a new function, set blocking state. Okay, and so not equal boolean. So if the is blocking here, let's change the name of this one. Well, this would be enable blocking. Okay, now let's get is blocking. And then we create a dispatcher on block set. And let's create a new parameter here. B is blocking. Let's drag this out here and call it. Okay, compile and save. Now let's go to Blueprints, Combat Player Character. And here in the event graph here, let's add the input for block. We're actually going to need to go to Edit, Project Settings, Input. Let's create a new action mapping. This will be block. I'm going to make this one right mouse button. Okay. Block. Let's get the combat component and set block state. But first we need to check if the character can block. Let's go ahead and copy the action checks here and perform attack. And let's just call this one can perform block. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to check can perform block. If can perform block is true, then we are going to set enable blocking to true. On release, we're going to simply set it to false. And so now let's create a shield weapon. We're actually going to require the player to have a shield when blocking, at least for now. So let's set shield weapon. And let's see. Base weapon. And shield. Okay. And let's promote this to a variable. Call this equipped shield. And let's make equipped shield private. Let's create a getter function for that. Get equipped shield. We're going to return the shield. So we return value. Okay, and now let's go to combat system blueprints actors, and let's create a child class derived from base weapon. Let's see, base weapon, yes. Create child class BP underscore base shield. Okay, let's create another child class from that, and let's call this one buff shield. Okay, and let's open up base shield. Let's override on equipped. Let's see what we got here in this parent version. Let's just copy all of this and put that in the base shield. Actually, we also have stuff in the parent. Let's just copy these as well. These in the base shield, because we're going to delete the call the parent function. Go to base weapon and copy all this. Okay, and here set main weapon, we're going to replace that with set shield weapon. We're going to set it to self. Okay, compile and save. Okay, this one is private and not accessible in this context. Let's just make that unprivate. Same thing for stats component. Okay, now recompile. Let's go to combat player character and can perform block. Let's get the combat component. And we need to check, is combat enabled? That has to be true. Okay, and let's get from the combat component, get shield equipped. We need to make that pure. Okay, and this has to be valid. So there has to be a shield equipped. Which reminds me that we need to, in the base shield, we also need to override on unequipped. And we need to get the combat component, set shield weapon. We will set it to nothing. Okay. Okay, and now that is handling setting blocking to true enabled. And now that we've done that, let's go to the animation blueprint. Here in the anim graph, we're going to need, basically going to need to add blocking state here. Now let's add blocking state here. So let's add a new state machine. State. New state cache pose. Blocking state. Okay, let's open this up. Add state. We'll call this one blocking state. Or this could just be an entry state. And then we can we can add a state, and this will be the blocking state. Okay, and now we need to go to the event graph, and let's get the combat component, and let's assign on blocking set event. And here we will mount a variable. And so now what we need to do is let's go to entry state is blocking true, and this one will be is blocking not blue. For the blocking animation, we need to retarget an animation. So let's go to combat system, force files, animations, defense. There we go. Okay, and open defense. And select both of these animations, and let's duplicate and retarget. And we're going to use the mannequin to Quang. We're going to change this location to Paragon Quang, animations. Let's create a new folder in here. Defense. Okay, and retarget. Okay, let's see what they look like. Okay. Okay, that works pretty good. Now we need the block loop, and we're going to put that in the animation blueprint. This will be for when the character is blocking. The entry state is going to be, let's see here, the main states pose. We'll use main states. And we're also going to need, now that we've done that, instead of main states here, let's use blocking state. Use cache pose blocking state. I guess instead of blocking state, you could call this one final pose. This will be like the final pose of the animation. So this will be the one that goes right before we plug it into the output pose. Let's go ahead and finish creating our tough sword, tough shield, combat system blueprints, actors, tough shield. And in the course files, you should find a shield mesh. So I'm gonna insert shield here, the tough shield. Okay. Now we need to create some sockets for this. So let's go ahead and in class defaults, let's set the attached socket to shield back and hand socket to shield hand. There we go. Now let's go open up our Quang character skeleton. Let's preview animation, block loop, we'll preview this animation so we can see what it looks like. Let's get hand L and let's add a socket. This one will be shield. Is that what we called it? Let's double check. Shield hand, yes. Let's add preview mesh. Tough, shield, yield. And I'm going to turn it around and rotate it into the correct position. Okay, that should be good enough. And now let's do the back socket, and I'm going to add that one to, add that to spine 3 because it's going to be closest to spine 3. I'll call this one shield back. Let's add preview asset, tough shield. No, I'm going to move it like this. There we go. Okay, that should be pretty good. Now let's go to the combat player character. Here in class defaults, there should be like a starting equipment array. Here it is. And let's add tough shield. Okay, let's spawn with it and see what happens. Okay, our shield is equipped, and there it goes. Our shield is in our hand. It's sort of working for the most part. However, we are having issues here. Okay, so one issue that we're having is it looks like that his combat type isn't properly set. I believe that is because, let's go to our shield parent. A shield is an offhand weapon, and so we don't really need to set the combat type. Let's go ahead and compile and save. Now let's try. There we go. So that's working a bit better. Now for some reason, whenever I release, it doesn't set him back properly. Go to the animation blueprint and let's see if that's updating properly. True. So it goes back to true for some reason. We must have made a mistake in the combat component. Let's go ahead and check. Let's go to combat component and set blocking state. Oh, I see what we did. This was supposed to be an if condition. Okay, and then the next thing we need to do is we need to get blocking. And hopefully you caught that, but just in case you didn't, this should fix our issue. Okay, yes, that did fix our issue. We need to adjust the position of the shield there. So let's go back to Quang Skeleton. Let's preview a different animation. Jog underscore forward. We need to find the Greystone, the one that was retargeted from Greystone. I think this one is it. Yes, it is. Let's go find shield hand. Here's shield hand, and let's just adjust that. Okay, let's see how that looks. It looks a lot better, except we should rotate it a bit. So let's go back here to the Quang Skeleton. Let's block loop. And yeah, this looks a little bit funny, so let's just rotate it a bit like this. And move it back very slightly. Okay, hopefully it looks good. Okay, that looks pretty good, and we defend. Yep, that looks good as well. Okay. But now the character's feet are sliding whenever we're blocking, so to fix that, it'll be just a simple layered blend per bone. So we can go here into the anim graph, and we can just copy this layered blend per bone, go to blocking state, and let's just paste it here. Okay, and we're gonna put this one in blend pose 0, and for this blend pose, let's get the entry state, and paste that here. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, yes, that does work. Let's close everything out, save all. Now let's go to combat system blueprints, and let's open up the player character again. Let's make him play a block reaction. So here, wherever we play hit reactions, let's go find that. It should be right here. apply impact effect. Now apply hit reaction. Okay. Here what we're going to do is let's do a condition. Okay, if it is false, we play these normal hit reactions. Let's get the combat component. It's blocking. Let's actually make that private. And let's create a getter function. Is blocking. Okay, now let's add an output and let's call this return value. Let's return B is blocking and make this a pure function. Okay, compile and save. Let's go back to the combat player. Now we can delete that and call the function is blocking. Okay, so if blocking is true, then let's collapse this to a function. Was it blocked? Let's make this a pure function. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to check is blocking and boolean and front, hit front. So it has to be front and blocking has to be true. Both of those are true. Then, okay, so let's duplicate perform hit stun. Duplicate, we'll call it perform block. And we'll plug that in here. Plug this into the true path. Okay, instead of disabled, let's create a new state. Block reaction. This is a block reaction state. Okay, let's delete those and let's promote this to a variable and we'll call this one. Actually, instead of doing it this way, let's store it inside of the shield. So let's go into the shield and we have a bunch of different animations here. So let's just open it up. Let's create a new variable. And this will be of type AniMontage. We'll make this an array and we'll call it block animations. Okay, we'll put this in the montages category. Let's go to Tough Shield. Block should be here somewhere. Here it is, block montages. Let's go find the animation that we have. That should be in Quang somewhere, Paragon Quang, animations, defense. And we need to create an animation montage here. Tough Shield, block. There we go. And for this one, we can also disable movement. Let's open up the montage instead. Let's add notify state, disable movement. Inside the base shield, let's override the action montages. Let's open this up, the parent version, and let's just copy all of this, paste it into the base shield version. Okay, character action block. I don't think block is here, so let's just add block attack. And let's return block animations here. There we go. Now compile and save. Okay, let's go back to the combat player and let's get combat component. Let's get field. And first let's make sure it's valid. If it is valid, we can continue. If it is not valid, then we return false. And from the equipped shield, let's get montage. We'll get the block attack. Get a copy here, or we could just simply get random array item. And now let's compile and save. Now that should work. So let's go ahead and test that out and see if it does. Okay, that does work. So we're blocking his attack, but we are still taking damage. So we're gonna need to do something about that. So let's go, let's see, where are we taking damage at? Okay, take damage. So what we could do in this case is, let's just do a select. Let's check. Was blocked. But of course, we need to do this hit front before we take damage. So that way that value will be updated. And if was blocked is true, then it's 0. That is false, then in damage amount. Okay, we forgot to plug this up. Let's try again. Okay, that's working. Actually, we need to modify the impact effect. So let's go here. And actually, let's just only play an impact effect if the attack was not blocked. So let's get was blocked from the branch. Plug that in. We're going to need a not boolean. We're only going to continue if the character did not block the attack. Okay, so no impact VFX are playing, and so now what we can do is go inside of the animation and play our impact effects and sounds from the animation itself. So defense here, and we can play the block from here. Let's add a notify track. And let's play particle effect. And the one that I want to play is it's from Greystone. It's called Novaborn. Do I have that? Primary impact, something like that. Yeah, go ahead and go to Greystone folder and find it. Paragon. Grace, do we have Greystone added? It seems like we don't. If you want, you can go ahead and add Greystone to your project. I'm going to do that now, so you can just go to the Epic Games Launcher and download Paragon Greystone and add it to your project. Okay, so now that that's been added to the project, we should be able to find the Greystone Novaborn impact that I was looking for. It's like a Novaborn impact. It's Greystone Novaborn primary impact. That's the one that I'm going to use. Okay, we need to move the location of this. Perhaps we could add a socket name for this. Add shield hand there. It's a socket name. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, that does work. Now we need to play a sound. Okay, now we need a block sound. So in order to get a block sound, let's go to Combat System Course Files, Sound Effects, and Block. Here in Sounds, let's create sound cue, and we'll call this one block impact underscore cue. Let's open it up. And by holding Shift and Select, let's select all 4 and move them in here. Now let's get random node. Let's make sure it has 4 entries here. And plug that up here. Now here in block queue, let's add that here. So add notify, play sound, block impact. There we go. Okay, let's try it out and see what it looks like. And the gameplay. Okay, that's pretty good. Playing the sound and the animation. But one issue that we have is that we cannot block whenever we're attacking, so whenever he finishes attacking and you're pressing the block, he doesn't start blocking. So that's going to be a fairly easy fix. All we need to do is, where is reset combat? Okay, reset combat here. Okay, and after we reset the combat successfully, we just need to basically check can perform block. And if can perform block is true, then we basically do the same thing here. We set enable blocking to true. But one thing that we could do to make sure that this doesn't fire when it's not supposed to is let's create another boolean. B is block pressed. And before we can perform block, we want to make sure that block pressed is true. And let's go back to our event graph. And here before we perform the block, let's set block pressed to true. And here, let's set it to false. There we go. Okay, now let's add a comment here to our block code. Let's make sure to comment it as block. We'll call this comment block. Okay, and now what should happen is whenever we're attacking, we cannot block until he finishes, and then he starts blocking it. I think that works pretty good. Oh, that knocked me down. Okay, that brings us to the end of this video. In this video, we have implemented a block boolean to know if the character can block. We have implemented a block hit reaction and block impact effects. We have implemented a shield and added block to the animation blueprint. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we are going to implement a heal mechanic so the player can heal if they take too much damage. Hello everyone, Jake here with Unreal RPG Mastery.